in the community, we're just building now the technology to critique calls because my wife has
Yes.
said to me for years, "Oh, who's doing the best?" And I'll say, "Well, Chris is this month." And she'll say, "Why?" And almost every time it's, "Well, they put the work in to do the calls and they give them to the coaches and we critique."
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we got a treat with Chris Prefontaine. He's got decades of experience in the real estate market, focusing specifically on creative real estate. And at the end of the show, he's going to share how you can get copies of his books for free. So stay tuned and check out our show notes for a free link. Chris is the chairman and founder of Smart Real Estate Coach. He's a 4-time bestseller, and he's a former Forbes Business Council member, 3-time Inc5000 Honoree for fastest growing company. Wicked Smart Community operates all over North America and successfully completed hundreds of transactions, assisting students in doing the same. That's the important thing. Chris and his team are a family. They don't just teach you, they walk with you. And alongside his achievements, Chris hosts the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast, which ranks in the top 0.5% globally. Having navigated through challenges such as the crash of '08, 9/11, a near-death experience with his son, and the impact of COVID, Chris re-engineered his entire business to weather all storms and economic cycles. We're going to talk about what he learned through that today. And his family and his team's mission is focusing on transforming dedicated individuals into wicked smart real estate investors. And I think my favorite thing about Chris is he and his wife have been married for 39, almost 40 years this year, and their children, Nick and Kayla, participate in the family business while also pursuing their entrepreneurial ventures. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well. And I'm really excited to have you on because you've had a lot of experience over the different real estate cycles over the last few decades. So I'm excited to get your perspective on that, talk about, some different opportunities that you see in the market today.
Yeah.
And you've got all kinds of content, all kinds of great education for investors out there that we're going to get to. But I'd love for you to share a little bit about your background with our audience before we dive in here.
Yeah, so I'll do, 34-ish years in a few seconds here, a few minutes, and then you could peel back any pile that you want. So I have been this since like 91. I started building homes. I did it creatively. I was young and naive, and I'd have the subcontractors wait till the house cashed out. I had the landowner wait. Like I didn't even know. I just asked for it and got it. Maybe because the market then was sort of soft.
Yeah.
It was a great time. We learned a lot. And then mid 90s, bought a realty executives franchise, sold out to co in 2000. Had never been an agent or a broker owner, so that was an interesting run. I did
Yeah.
it just to sell it though, and everybody said, "Oh, you can't sell a brokerage," but that's what we did. And then the interesting part that leads us to today is from 2000 till the crash of '08.
Yeah.
We just had this major run where doing my own properties, and they were mixed use condominium conversions at the time. Those are hot and heavy.
Yeah. Those were hot.
And
Yeah.
yeah, frankly, they were easy at one time. And then when the market dropped February of 12, of 2012, it was like a switch went off, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
man, so stuff we were selling in one project, just to give you context,
Yeah.
was like 175 grand. We sold two of them, six. I think it was a 6 or 7 unit building. Literally that next month, we couldn't give away for 50 grand. It's just
Yeah.
everything, the financing, everything went away. So I got up pretty badly financially and also obviously mentally. And so I was in my head for 4 years. It took me till February of 12 to get
Wow.
out of my own way and get out there and get working again. So the mental game is just like so much. We can talk about it later maybe, but so much
Very
part of
important.
what we all have to know, to go forward. I wish it was just a skill set. It's not. That'd be too easy.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my journey. In there, I coached a bunch of high gross commission agents actually back in 2000. Gentleman out in Canada who's still very, very big, Richard Robbins. And that was a great experience because it taught me that I love, love, love helping people work through their stuff, right? Whether it be
Yeah.
mental or financial. So that's how this came about. I started doing deals creatively. I was in a one-bedroom apartment. Literally, my wife and I were
Mhm.
decimated. Sold cars, went into a one-bedroom apartment, started doing deals again, then started getting demand organically to teach that,
Yeah. Yeah.
creative real estate. So I call it Real Estate on My Terms, or Real Estate on Your Terms is my book. But that morphed into what today is, we're all over North America, mostly US. We hit the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies 3 years in a row. And so there's it was super organic and it's super fun because the deals are never the same as you know in
Yeah.
creatives. That's the journey. Is in my New England quick style for you. I can go back to any piece of that.
I love it. I love it. I grew up in Maryland, so I feel like
Nice.
I can relate a little bit to our New England friends. And being in the Carolinas now, everything's a little bit slower, so it's a little bit easier. You know, it's like I feel like I'm moving in, and everything's moving in slow motion to me
Yeah.
down here. But it's been great raising a family. And I want to get to that at the end of the show, Chris. How
Sure.
you've incorporated your family into the business. I think that's amazing and one of my goals. But I want to hit on this. I think this is really important because why you've got a couple years head start on me. I remember the savings and
Mm.
loan crisis of the early 90s because my parents were working for a real estate development company. They both lost their jobs. And I was in college, going through business school, watching the downturn into 2001. And you talk about the mental game, and I think a big part of the mental game in anything, in sports, in business, especially in real estate, you have the skill set, you have the knowledge, but I think if we understand that life goes in cycles. It's like if you're, I was a cyclist. I
Mm.
raced, and you didn't always stay at the same level. You have different seasons. You had your off season. You prepared, for the racing season, peaked for big events. I think the real estate business is a lot like that as well. And if you know there's going to be ups and downs, and you're prepared for that, it's a lot easier to go through it mentally. And one of the other things I love is that like you said, there are different deals that work at different times during the cycles.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about your perspective on that, because again, you going through, some of those cycles as an active operator during those times, what would you do differently going back to, say the early 2000s and going through 2012 at this point?
Yeah. A couple things to unpack there. Really good points. So first of all, like being able to pivot in any market, you kind of alluded to that in a couple of different ways.
Hmm.
That's really what creative is, right? So for
Yes.
years and years, and too many people still teach this, that time the market, time geographics, time demographics, time the interest rates. That's all great, but you're gonna be waiting forever because and then the
Never a
media is
perfect time.
screaming
Yeah.
at you, right? And
Yeah.
so everybody waits. And it's just so costly. Like you might think, oh, I didn't start yet, so it's not no, it's costly. Your opportunity cost is just blowing
Absolutely.
by you.
Yeah.
So creative is interesting because all it does is it teaches you to see opportunity where, frankly, most can't. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, to your point, the market changes, right? That's one constant in real estate. Well, if we know that, why not learn how to operate in any market? So in other words, you're just changing the game. And how do you change the
Yes.
game? Well, in our case, it's a small example, but important. The game change for us would be, oh, the market shifted. Let's go now to a different lead source. I call it fishing in a different pond. But we
Yeah.
don't stop. We just go to a
Right.
different lead source and
Yeah.
constantly rinse and repeat and have that variety coming in at all times. So you're just pulling levers, you're not stopping.
Love
Um,
that.
I frankly, most investors, as you know, and realtors, anyone in the space, in the public, they don't see a lot of the opportunity that's available in creative. Look, I was 17 years or 18 years before I pivoted and understood the
Mm.
broad scope of creative. I thought I knew it all. I didn't know it all. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So after the crash, it forced me to kind of rewrite my rule book, if you will. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's important. As far as going back, I wished I knew creative sooner, frankly. I mean, I did the realtor route, did the builder route. I thought it was creative. In hindsight, it kind of was, but I didn't piece it all together, right?
Right.
Now, you look back to 2000, I was still in that sort of transactional mode. That's the year you used. But that whole
Yeah.
time, I was in transactional mode, like so many people out, like do a deal, get paid, do a deal, get paid. Every
Right.
January comes along and you go, oh man, I gotta like do all this again, right?
Yeah.
So that's when we trademarked the three payday system, and it's just a different quality of income that people aren't used to.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what is your three payday system. I'd love to dive into that for the audience.
Yeah, we exit. First of all, when I say different quality of income, I'll say what it is, and then we'll piece that together. Because we
Perfect.
exit most, not all, most of our deals with rent to own, and it's
Mhm.
very strict. My son Nick designed it since 2014 when he joined me, and he's perfected it. Meaning,
Love it.
a lot of people teach rent to own, as you know, and they literally, I heard it recently, say publicly on YouTube, on podcasts, they'll say, "Yeah, I don't care if the buyers ever get financing. I just put another buyer in there and collect another check." And I go, oh, man, I just cringe because, okay, maybe your legal agreement set you up to do that, but we set up our buyers to win, period.
Yeah, you want to
So
be, yeah, it's like that's all, yeah, that's like saying, hey, we're gonna do this, but really I'm hoping for you to fail.
that's
And
exactly what it is.
I was actually t talk. talking about this with my wife and my younger son because they were working out a training program for him, and it was like it was actually his program was designed for him to fail. It was like it was
Ah,
not leading toward they were not aligned on their end goals. And I sat them both down and I said, hey, I've listened to both you here, and I said if he loses, you win. To my wife because they had kind of a deal if
like a
my son
system. I got it.
complete this. And I said, you guys, like you should be happy if he wins, not happy if he fails. And I said, let's redesign this to do that. So I love that
Perfect.
strategy. And it's like I think that's not only is that I mean, hey, you might get away with it, but at the end of the day, if you have happy, successful clients or partners, because that's what you are, you got a partner as a renter, then
Essentially. Yep.
everybody's going to do better off in the end.
Yeah, they gotta be in our model, they gotta be buyers who are deserving of a house. They just are not bankable yet. And there's like
Yeah,
right
love that.
now, in fact,
Yeah,
for creative, talk about timing, there's like this onslaught of people growing, growing, growing where they want to leave corporate and go in their own biz.
yeah.
And they're not bankable for 2 years. Most banks, I heard recently from a note buyer guy, friend of mine, said he thinks that they're pushing that out further, like 30 to
Yeah.
36 months of seasoning.
Yeah.
That means you get a lot of great buyers that deserve a home and they deserve this program. So payday one, to answer your question, is they
Yeah.
put a down payment down. That's non-refundable. Payday two is the difference between what I'm paying every month on that particular property and what they're
Mhm.
paying me. There's a delta there, right?
Yeah.
And the third payday is really cool for a lot of reasons, and that is any markup in the house
Mhm.
and any principal pay down throughout the entire term, call it 24 to 6 months, sometimes longer. Any of that principal pay down accrues to us, the investor. So let me put a metric on this. All
Yeah.
three paydays for us across the country, low of 45,000, that'd be like in some low end areas, high of 350,000, all three
Mhm.
paydays per deal, right? Over time. Those are some pretty hefty deals, Chris. So most people
Yeah.
don't come in going, I gotta do 50 deals. No, they do 10, they change their life, right? So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
for context.
Yeah. No, I love that. And you're talking about single family rentals, which is how I got my start.
Primarily,
Yeah.
primarily.
Yeah. But I mean, this can apply to commercial properties
Any
as
asset
well.
class. Yeah,
They
I
do
bought my
that.
building
Yeah.
this way. Yeah, any
Yeah.
asset class.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And you brought up your son, and kind of doing some background before our show.
Hmm.
I've shared with my audience kind of how the death of my best friend in college changed my life. It really gave me a different perspective.
Mm.
And there's a lot of research. I also lost my father when I was young. Unfortunately, I've lost both my parents and
Wow.
my sister in a car accident in the not too distant future past. But these things change you and your perspective. But you actually had a more profound experience where you actually went through this, you and your son.
Yeah, Nick had in 2003 a near-death experience snowboarding,
Mm.
and now speaks to brain injury hospitals and organizations all over
Yeah,
the country, both virtually and in person. So he gives back to that, and he's been in the
yeah.
business with me since 14. We actually designed a curriculum after
Mm.
high school instead of college. We designed a curriculum that was made up of a bunch of mentors of mine and seminars and things like that.
Yeah. No, I love that. And how old is Nick now, if you don't mind me asking?
37.
Okay.
He was
Okay.
in middle school then.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's I've got a friend as well, played lacrosse, went through something very similar. And he shares a very similar experience about how it changed his life and coming back. And it's really changed, his appreciation for life, but also his perspective
Oh yeah,
on, how much he really pours into each day and, how precious it is.
big
Um,
time.
and yeah, it's amazing that you've gotten to build that, with your sons as well. How long have they been working in the business with you?
Came in fall of 14. I was just getting busy on my own, going, I can't. Like, A, I didn't know the tech
Yeah,
part. Like, how do I handle all these buyers? And I didn't have
right.
time to market. So he was a realtor and he did that prime still and then started with me.
Yeah,
Kayla, my daughter, came in 15, and so did my son-in-law, Zach, who's now CEO and partner in the company. Kayla's
amazing.
off now because we've got grandkids, 8 and 6,
Oh,
but
wonderful.
Zach and Nick are both still fully involved.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been writing a piece here that I'm going to be publishing here in conjunction with our new book. But my wife and my older son's 16, my
Yeah,
younger son's 14, and we're trying to figure out how do we educate them on college, the value of college, whether it's worth going to at
yeah.
all. Did Nick attend college, or did you said you kind of built a curriculum around that? I would love to hear your perspective on that
Yeah,
because I know a lot of listeners, are like me, where they're looking and saying, "Well, wait a minute, like with AI and the onslaught of all the new technology that's coming
yeah,
on, is not only is college a good bet, which most times, unfortunately, today it's not a great financial decision, but is it even a safe bet anymore? Even if you're going to be like an engineer or a programmer or I mean, even surgeons might be replaced by robotics in the future. So, do you mind
yeah.
sharing a little bit about your thought process around that alternative path, of entrepreneurship for your son?
Yeah, I'll talk about it then, right?
Yeah,
And I'll give you my opinion now without stepping on
yeah.
anyone's toes. So
Now
then it
you
was,
can step on toes. It's all good. Yeah,
I think he graduated from high school in 2007, and the accident was '03. So there was, learn how to read, write, walk, talk, everything all over again. So decided could I have an option of not doing that? And I said, sure. And my wife kiddingly said, you sure you want to do this? Like you're going to have a curriculum here that I'm going to design.
yeah,
So that I was just wondering what he wanted because I think if we throw kids at things that they're not going to be passionate about, that's also talk about a waste of money. It's like double.
right. Yeah,
So yeah, that's what we did. I mean, I'll give you some names between Dan Kennedy and different marketers and T. Harv Eker for money. And like I
yeah,
just did the well-rounded thing. And I
yeah.
think that most of the stuff's not even taught in school. It's
No,
nuts.
no, it's
He's
not,
doing
unfortunately.
no, he's doing extremely well now in every way. So, and it's not just because of that. It's because association matters too, right? So it's where you hang
Yeah,
out. So that was my logic then. My logic now is I think the job, with very few exceptions to specialties like you mentioned, the
yeah,
job is the biggest risk now. Like there's no question that's the biggest risk with all the
yeah,
technology and everything going on. So unless you have an extreme specialty that you don't think is going to be replaced in the next 5 years, then
yeah,
okay, it might be a place for some of them, but they're getting far and few between, honestly, if you want to excel and really go do some big things. And if you look at most of the multi-millionaires and billionaires,
yeah,
many of them, I was saying this to my wife the other day, they dropped out of college and didn't go because they had a
yeah.
passion to do X, right? So yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm just big on that. I always have been. I think I look at some of our programs. Wait a minute, you're not going to spend X, but you didn't think twice about 20 years ago going to college and dropping 50, 60, 70, 100 grand. That's crazy. That's another whole
Yeah.
show, I think.
Yeah, no, it's one we've done whole shows on, and I think you made a really good point, which is, I look back, I've studied, people like Zuckerberg and Dell and
Yeah.
Bezos and Musk, and you're right, a lot of them did drop out, but one of the things that people don't really talk about that a lot of them had in common was optionality because their family, their parents, they gave them a cushion in some sense. And I think this is something that, you can do a hybrid approach as a parent. And I'd love to get your perspective on that. So, like, my sons play lacrosse. My older son wants his dream is to play D1 college lacrosse, and we were talking on his spring break about his plans and a path and college and what he would study. And he said, "Well, I think marine biology would be cool." And I said, "Oh, like George Costanza in Seinfeld, if anybody's seen that episode."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay." I said, "Let's say you do go to college for that. You do that. We'll have to look at, we started talking about the metrics of it, the financials of it. But I said, you also need to learn business." And we started talking about, the language of money. And we've been talking about this with our boys since they were young. But I think
Mm.
regardless of what you do, there's a tremendous benefit in having an alternative path where you're also learning to be an investor. Obviously, we prefer real estate, Chris,
Yeah.
and our name isn't the only thing we have in common. And if you can teach your kids, hey, here's how to invest, whether it's the stock market or real estate or small business, and do
Right.
those things. And you can also leave the door open for other passions that you have if it makes sense. But if you have that ability, if your job is displaced, you have another source of income.
Yeah.
If like you said, your daughter wants to take time off or step away from the workforce to devote time to her children, whether that's homeschooling or and not just a female, by the way, it could be either parent
Of course.
could step back and do that. There's tremendous value in that, and I think the value really is in the knowledge of money, the knowledge of real estate, the knowledge of investing, but also the optionality that it gives the next generation.
I agree 100%. I mean, if you take, as you're talking, I'm thinking you could take
Yeah,
two short seasons, never mind 4 years, just two short
yeah,
seasons, and you
yeah,
could pound away at the financial mindset piece, and you could pound away at whatever, especially if it's real estate or
yeah,
what it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is.
yeah.
You'd be an expert in it. You would because it's not being
Absolutely.
taught at that focused, laser focused level. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I love that. And the thing is, there are multiple different paths. So if you're a single family investor, if you're a commercial investor, you can teach your kids all about these things. We had my son work at one of our car washes this summer, and one of my favorite stories, Chris, is he came home and he goes, "Dad, when I was sitting there today waiting for the next customer to come through, I was thinking about how much they pay and how many people come through every day and how much money you make every month." You know, and
That's perfect.
I said, yeah. I go, and he kind of guessed at what it was. And I said, yeah, you're pretty close. I said, well, how many hours would you have to work at say $15 an hour to make that? And he said, I couldn't make that, in a year. I couldn't make what you make, owning the car wash. So I said to him, would you rather work at the car wash or own the car wash? He goes, I want to own a car wash. I said, well, that's great. I said, but you can't own one until you understand it and do that. So,
Yeah.
that created some buy-in with him. So if you're listening today, you got kids, that's one of the things is look for opportunities and ways to create buy-in with your children on how they can understand the business, the business side of investing. So you can kind of create that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and then align those incentives. I think that's super important. Um, Chris, you mentioned a couple times the mindset, and I
Mm.
agree. This is one thing. As an athlete, as a business owner, I've had many ups and downs. Mentally from different things, from losing friends to business cycles, so on and so forth. I do think as you become a professional, as you achieve the higher levels of your business and you mature, that mindset is the most important thing once you have all
Mm.
the other pieces. Can you speak to how you work with your clients on that piece and how you've employed it in your own life?
Yeah, a couple things. We can go back even to Nick's accident. When he was
Yeah.
in the coma, we plastered his walls with
Mm.
affirmations and sayings that he could read, even though he couldn't talk yet. So that's just to get you thinking of the exposures needed, because we all get barraged with other crap
Yeah.
all day, every day, 24/7. So we got to,
Yeah.
I'll use the word fight, but we got to resist indirect by pushing that back in our brain with all this good stuff. So
Absolutely.
with our clients, again, let me give you this. We have a genius model, right, Chris? It's three prongs. It's mindset, skill set, and systems. Well, the
Love
skill
that.
set and the systems, literally anyone listening can and will learn. It's the mindset piece that it's one thing to teach it. We teach it in our Motivational Mondays on YouTube. We teach it in our classes, but it's when people hit the curveballs, like especially like I still work with a high level group I call the President's Group, Club. They'll hit curveballs. So in my nightly texting, they'll do verbal. I want to hear their voice. If there's a major curveball, it's something I jump right on because it's usually mindset. Like, oh, this
Mm.
deal fell apart. What am I going to do? I had a bad day because of that. Like all that stuff is the stuff on the fly, that interactive mode
Yeah.
that works. There's many, I'll say courses that are out there. Real estate's not the only field, but let's just talk real
Yeah.
estate that barrage you with, not how to run. You're an athlete, not how to run, but go, or rather just how to run, not I'll go run with
Right.
you. There's a big
Yeah.
difference. It's like,
Absolutely.
here's how you master cycling, or I can go out with you and teach you everything, right? So
Right.
it's a in real estate, and unfortunately, that's too much of that out there without this piece you and I are talking about, and as a result, people fail.
Yes.
They're gonna, because entrepreneurship is not easy, period. I'm not gonna candy coat it. It's not easy.
No. No. Yeah. What do they say? It's the only thing that people do. They'll work 120 hours to avoid working a 40-hour work week.
Yeah. Especially if not done right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where the systems come in. How are you guys using systems, specifically AI, in your business today? Are you guys incorporating any of that?
I started, they laugh at me because I'm not the tech person, but I started using it like prior to recording and filming.
Yeah.
I'll ping it with just ideas, and I'll get these cool little pointers because I have my material's been out there for a long time, but I'll get some
Yeah.
cool little sort of ads, or sort of here's how it's going on now to what you just said.
Yeah.
So I use that in the community. We're just building now the technology to critique calls, because my wife
Yes.
has said to me for years, "Oh, who's doing the best?" And I'll say, "Well, Chris is this month." And she'll say, "Why?" Almost every time it's, "Well, they put the work in to do the calls and they give them to the coaches and we critique." But that's so labor intensive. We've been doing this for
Yeah.
over a decade, but it's labor intensive.
Yeah.
But it's also the fastest way for them to learn. So now we're
Yeah.
going to build that so the language is appropriate to the calls for them. That's one idea.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
it goes without
fantastic. Yeah.
saying, I'm
Virtual
sorry,
coach.
it goes without saying that comps and things like that, not that
Hmm.
they're feel safe, but you can
Yeah.
do that a lot quicker than you could before, and
Yeah.
structure an email offer to go out like boom, like that.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And we built a kind of a virtual Chris, I call it Chris GPT, Chris
Nice.
AI. So anybody can go on and I actually ran into one of my friends at the gym and he goes, "Oh man, I was just getting on your Chris AI." I said, "Oh, what?" He's like, "Yeah, we're doing some stuff. We're trying to make some decisions with, investing in real estate." And he goes, I should give you a call. And I said, well, yeah, check out Chris AI, see what it says, and then we'll use that prior to our call. And it is amazing. You look at different
It's perfect.
analyses and different things. And no, it helps. I think it helps kind of jumpstart, different calls and do that. So it's really cool, especially with somebody like you that has such a wealth of knowledge, multiple books that you have out there
That's cool.
with your community. Kind of where we kind of going full circle here, Chris, we started talking about real estate cycles. Here we are, beginning of 2026. We're, in my opinion, kind of the second half of the real estate cycle. Is we've seen, we still see high prices, we see high interest rates. There's a lot of uncertainty in the markets today. What do you really see as the biggest opportunities over, the near term, 1 to 5 years in the future for investors, specifically in real estate?
I really think that people look back even in a few like 28, 29, and if they didn't take action and go, man, I should have. And it's because of what you said. I think you used the word uncertainty.
Yeah,
Whenever there's uncertainty or turmoil or change or the media screams louder,
yeah,
that all screams that the buyers and sellers need a guide. They need us.
yes,
And if we go hide and put our head in the ceiling on someone else, who's helping them? Someone's taking
right,
advantage of that opportunity. The creative is interesting right now. I'll give you a comparison too. So I looked at '08 till now, right? 'Cause that's what hammered me. Well, in '08, as you know, there was little to no equity in homes. That was part of the
yeah,
problem, right?
yeah,
Well, right now, when I started in creative, the owner financing deals we were looking for free and clear properties was like 32, 33% of the homes in the United States were free and clear.
yeah.
It's up to like 40% now. I just pulled this
Wow.
like 2 weeks ago as
Yeah,
a building. Well, 40%. I'm not saying they're all going to sell to you, but most of them are off market and most of them will talk to you about doing monthly payments to them instead of using a bank.
yeah,
Talk about a creative solution when they're hearing from the media and others that this is not the good time to sell. And you come in and go, no, yeah, I can solve your issue for you. You can get top price as long as I get the right term. And I'm just giving you a small example. But
yeah.
creative right now in my 34 and a half, whatever years, I've never seen it this conducive to going out and helping and solving and making win-win relationships and having creative just go through the roof. It's much more known now.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, not only is equity the highest it's been in properties, but, interest rates are high and lending is starting, as you were mentioning with, business borrowers,
Yeah.
lending is starting to contract. It's a great time to be able to come in and effectively be the bank.
Yeah.
Which is
Place.
what I love that you're doing and using your creative strategies to do that. Chris, you have an amazing community. I know you got an event coming up here this fall. I would love for you to share with our audience. I know we got a link that we're going to share in the show notes here, but share a little bit about your community, what you have to offer for investors. They say, "Hey, this is great. I need to get started. I need to take a long-term view of this, learn the skills. I need some help with my mindset." How can they work with you, Chris?
Our community is more like a family. If that's something that people resonate well with, it really is. We're built, right? Because too many people build communities that there really has no touch. We built a
Yeah,
family is what we did. And they can get the free books. I'm big on free lately, Chris, though I've done it in the past because there's so much junk out there. I really think there's a lot of stuff hitting people in social media, get rich quick tomorrow stuff.
yeah,
So I want to get free stuff out there. They can go to 3paysbooks.com. That's the number three. So 3paydaysbooks.com/next level. And they'll get and by the way, that's not a free offer that says put in shipping. I need your credit card for shipping. It's free. Like we're not going to charge you shipping. We're going to ship it. We just need your address and we'll ship you a couple books out, the best sellers. 3paydaysbooks.com/next level.
I know because your team sent me the books. They even sent me a wonderful little T-shirt here before we
Nice.
hopped on, so I got a chance to look through everything. And yeah, we're gonna have that show note. Take advantage of this if you're listening today. I'll never forget when I was getting started in my real estate career. And that's on an online forum, somebody was like, "Oh yeah." They're like, I got all this stuff, and they sent me this box of like 40 books and tapes and videos, and it was awesome. So it's wonderful. Never stop learning. Take a long-term view. Build your skill set, build your systems, but also stay on your mindset, Chris. I know you're big on all that. Thank you so much for having this conversation here today, and we'll have you back on to dive into some of those other conversations at some point in the future.
You bet.
Too.
I appreciate being on. We'll get you on our show again as well.
Excited. Thanks a lot. Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.